Well, there's been a conversation on oral. No, I'm not talking about English lessons. I'm talking about Operation Recover or Loot. And tangentially, there's also been that purported recovery of bullion bars that were meant to be sent outside the country a few days ago, about 17 boxes of those. But the question is, was anything wrong done? I'm sure some of you have seen the video. Others have seen the rhetoric surrounding it. This morning, we have a conversation with a member of the National Democratic Congress, the Deputy General Secretary. He will be sharing his thoughts with us on that. And we'll also hear from the PMMC. They have a statement out on this matter, and we'd love to hear from you on the back of this development. But to kickstart matters, let me call for that statement from the PMMC, and then we shall take a look at what exactly the development is. We'll also be joined shortly by Mustafa Bande, who is a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. But it has to do with that purported disruption of PMMC operations at the National Assay Center. So what does the statement say? We've already seen what is in the public fray on social media, but per this statement, dated the 18th of December 2024, and from the Precious Minerals Marketing Company Limited. I'm going to read large portions of it as are necessary. It is captioned, Disruption in PMMC operations at the National Assay Center. And it reads, the Precious Minerals Marketing Company, which by law acts as the national assayer, has noted with deep concern an incident that occurred at the National Assay Center located at the Aviance Cargo Terminal, where a mob led by a gentleman who identified himself as Mr. Joseph Yamin, the national organizer of the National Democratic Congress, forcibly attempted to seize bullion bars being processed by PMMC for the Central Bank of Ghana. The incident occurred on Tuesday, 17th December 2024, between the hours of 16 hours GMT, lasting till about midnight. The bullion bars belong to the Bank of Ghana. That is what the statement says. The bullion bars belong to the Bank of Ghana as part of the ongoing domestic gold purchase program, which was launched as far back as June 2021. The bullion bars were being assayed to confirm their weights, purity, and consequently value. It was during this assay that the process was disrupted by a mob led by Mr. Yamin, with the allegation that the said bullion bars were being smuggled secretly out of Ghana by certain political actors, which allegation is false. And by the way, this being false is what the PMMC is saying, not what we are saying. We are trying to get to the bottom of the matter. Now, the PMMC and the Bank of Ghana had to call the intervention of the police, and after several hours of a standoff, it was agreed that the bullion bars be moved to the Greater Accra Regional Police Command for safekeeping until this morning, with the hope of a resolution to the issue. It is worthy of note that a private exporter who is duly licensed to carry out exports was also affected by this unfortunate incident. The gold, which was being processed for export by the private licensed exporter, was also added to the bullion belonging to the Bank of Ghana. This unlawful action is deeply regrettable and has the potential of causing significant harm to Ghana's reputation on the international bullion market. Such disruptions not only undermine the confidence of legitimate international gold buyers, but also threatens the country's standing as a trusted player in the global gold trade. Furthermore, these acts place the Ghanaian men and women who are lawfully discharging their duties at significant risk. The dedicated staff who are committed to ensuring compliance with Ghana's strict regulatory standards should not have to face threats or intimidation while performing their legitimate responsibilities. This creates a hostile environment and undermines the very systems designed to ensure transparency and integrity in Ghana's gold trade. It is important to emphasize that a simple verification with the relevant authorities, including the PMMC and the Bank of Ghana, would have clarified the legitimacy of the process and avoided such an embarrassing and damaging situation. But over here, I'll pause briefly when it talks about verification. If there were some sleight of hand, I'll get to that later. If we were to get someone from the PMMC, that would have been easy to ascertain, because honestly, some of it doesn't make sense in my mind, but we'll get to that. The management of the PMMC stands resolute in its commitment to ensuring transparency, accountability, and compliance with all legal and regulatory standards governing the export of gold. We will continue to collaborate with relevant stakeholders to safeguard the integrity of Ghana's gold trade. PMMC reiterates its commitment to upholding the mandate as national assayer and will not relent in promoting responsible gold trade to protect and advance the interests of Ghana's precious minerals industry. And this was issued by Corporate Affairs of the PMMC, Diamond House, Accra. Let me bring in Mustapha Gbande. He is Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress, and he joins the conversation. Mustapha, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
This is a crucial issue. It is our gold, and per what the PMMC says, these were official processes being undertaken by the national assayer. And Joseph Yamin, your national organizer, interrupted this process. The question is, why?
All right. So, good morning to yourself and your cherished listener. I hope my sister is in the studio.
She's out and about.
Okay. Now, it's very unfortunate, the statement I'm seeing from PMMC.
Why?
With respect, I think in the morning of the day this arrest was made, I called into the chief executive of PMMC and told him that we had information that there was a movement of gold reserve, which belongs to the state.
That is the 17th, the day this happened.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Around what time? Around what time did you call him?
In the morning, around 10.
Okay.
And he denied. He told me there was nothing happening. In fact, I actually detailed a team to go there and verify, and the team met him.
Just go along with me. Whom exactly did you speak to? The name. I know you said the chairman.
I forgot the gentleman's name, but I'll check whilst the conversation is ongoing.
So you spoke with him earlier in the day, and he said that nothing like this was going to happen.
Yes, that was exactly what he said. Then in the evening, this issue of bullion van then came into the public domain. And so what we did was to ask a team to go and check if it was true that the bullion van was carrying some gold. When they got there, indeed it confirmed that the bullion van was carrying the gold, and they had even discharged the gold, preparing to put on Emirate flights that evening. So at about 4 p.m., they were there and they stopped the movement. I personally called the airport police commander that this was what we intercepted, and so he should go and take over. So they went there. The airport police commander, Dr. Siedu, was there. I personally phoned National Security for a stand-up and told them that this is what information we have had at the airport. Our boys are there, so therefore National Security should intervene. If you find out from them, they will confirm. And so the whole proceeds, or whatever the subject matter was, ended up to be about 400 kilos of gold, purporting to be coming from Bank of Ghana. So it was taken back to the regional police command, and yesterday, everybody followed up, and the gold was returned to Bank of Ghana's reserve until the new government takes over. So I don't see where this capricious, unwarranted letter is coming from.
How did you come by this? How did you come by this that they will return to the central bank's reserves until the new government takes over? Where did you get this assertion from? Who confirmed that to you?
To the best of my knowledge, yesterday the team were there, they met with the police, and there were discussions. So at the end of the day, they agreed that the gold be returned to Bank of Ghana.
Yeah,
At
but
least what I do
the point I'm making is until the new administration takes over. That part I don't know about.
You will recall that a joint letter between the transition team was brought out to the effect that all major transactions that the government undertake should be discussed at the transition level.
That has been disputed. That has been disputed by Fatima, the information minister, who says Fatima Abubakar, who says that such arrangements purportedly are not what were discussed at that meeting. I saw what Felix Kwachiofosu put out, and I've seen what she has put out on behalf of the MPP's end of the transition team. And they say that they are not fettered. They are still in government until the 6th of January. And so that is not what was agreed upon. So if you're referencing that, I'm sorry, this is what they've also said.
Well, even that, this is not the first time Akapo, you go and buy a car, and then somebody comes to impound the car as a suspicious asset. You show your documents. When your documents are genuine, you take them back. This is not the first time it's happened. It's happened in several instances, and it's actually law that any subject matter of suspicion must be referred to the police. The police will verify, look at it, and then will determine the veracity of how true it is. They claim that the gold, it belongs to Bank of Ghana, a private individual is sending it, and it is done by assay and all of that. The processes will be verified and checked as long as the gold belongs to government of Ghana. It is what it is. We just have to go through the processes and determine the veracity of it. It's not about this long letter they have written, but it's about looking at the issue. That is why it was handed over to the police. So when you refer Joseph Yamin as a gentleman who tried to disrupt, nobody disrupted. They went to the airport. In the room where the gold was they removed it from the van and kept it in the room. They met officials, they discussed, they didn't touch it, they brought in the police. The same way, we were in Ashanti region, we impounded thousands of bags of fertilizer in an abandoned government of Ghana fertilizer in an abandoned house. And that is fertilizer meant for farmers. Would they say that because government is still in place? So how vigilant is the government that its officials are taking state assets left, right, and center?
Just confirm for me. I want us to address really salient issues in the course of the conversation. Some of what you say, I want us to substantiate. So let's go back a bit, right? You said you spoke to the managing director of the Precious Minerals Marketing Company. Did you speak to Nana Akwesi Ewa, the lawyer? Is he the one you interacted with?
Yeah, I think so. That's the one, I think so.
No, I want you to be specific. Is he the one? Nana Akwesi Ewa?
He's the one I spoke to.
He's the one you spoke to. And you can confirm to me, and of course, we could check your phone to find out whether there are any call records.
Yes.
You spoke to him earlier on the 17th, which was Tuesday.
Tuesday morning.
And when you spoke to him about the suspicion of some gold being sent outside the country, he told you that no such thing was going to happen that day.
He said they were not moving any gold from the reserves.
From the reserves?
Yes, that's what exactly he said.
The gold that was, held at KIA, was it from the reserves?
As far as the police investigation would confirm, as we are speaking, the police who are the party, in charge of this matter, are yet to speak to the public as to what they have found and informations that they have gathered as far as the gold is concerned. But preliminary, what I do know is that PMMC is a government entity. Ghana is also a government entity. They've confirmed that the gold belongs to government and that it was a legitimate transaction. It is for the police to do their verification and then tell the public what they have found and the details. If it matches what the PMMC is saying or to the contrary, then we can all take it from there. But as far as I'm concerned, we as citizens have a duty to ensure that government properties are protected and that same are not stolen. In the event that the authorities who are supposed to be in charge are not able to see, of course, they won't see everything. Where you sit as a good journalist, not every story that gets to your table. It goes through a lot of situations, then you get to know. In the event that the authorities are not even able to see, the law depends on the citizens to help the authorities to become aware. And when we have discharged that responsibility, it should come with some level of applause and applause for vigilance. It's now left for the authority, the right authority, to look into the matter. Tomorrow, as you said, the police can walk to your place and arrest you on suspicion. When they investigate you and you are not culpable to anything, you are asked to go. That is the nature of our law. And so when that happens and they are jumping around and trying to create a situation as if some mob, some criminals have gone to intercept what legitimate thing they were doing, it's wrong. That was not the case.
But you see, the important thing is that even in the instance you give, if the police conducts an arrest and it is done wrongfully, there could be punitive measures and repercussions for the police. If they arrest me on whimsical, grounds, and I go through a court process, and I can prove that, there could be malicious prosecution, and the state could have to pay me damages. So there is a way of going about it. You say you reported to the police, right?
Yes, indeed.
And that is why the police went on the scene and then took custody. Hold for me, let's go step by step. And that is why the police went on the scene and then took custody of the gold, right?
That is correct.
And then took it to the central bank.
No, they took it to the police headquarters, the regional police headquarters that night.
The regional police headquarters. So as we speak, that gold is with the regional police headquarters, not the central bank.
Exactly. But as at yesterday, the last information I got in the evening, I'm not there, was to the effect that the gold was moved to Bank of Ghana, back to Bank of Ghana, for further investigations to be carried. And I do understand, because if you leave it at the police, they don't have safes where they can keep gold.
They don't have vaults, right? Vault.
Yeah, if anybody goes to steal them, then it becomes another matter. The safest place to keep them is under the institution that has the necessary logistics to keep them for further investigation. And I think that is a very simple matter. It's not a complex issue. So that is the only place that I do not understand is when he wants to deny that it was some mob of sort and some gentleman of a sort who tried to interrupt the process. It is wrong. The gold was at the airport. It was in the bullion van. And I'm sure that you would have been aware of the public outcry, not even from Joseph Yamin, but people crying, oh, they are stealing our gold, they are moving our gold. So therefore, if they have nothing to hide, they should submit themselves to the police, verify the documents, check what is happening, and that, the police, I'm sure, will cooperate and ensure that the right thing is done.
Mustafa Gbande, Mustafa, just hold for me, and Mustafa Gbande, hold for me. Now, in law, he who alleges must prove, okay?
Yes.
I am all for ensuring that what belongs to the state remains with the state and that individuals don't unduly benefit from the largesse of the state or steal or pilfer. I am all for that. You know me. But the point is, if you are alleging, it is up to you to prove. That is one. The second bit, do you know what processes these gold bars go through in terms of when they are being taken out legitimately, when government is doing business? Do you know the process?
I don't deal in gold, and I cannot speak to the processes.
Okay. The reason I ask is that if you don't know the full processes, then how could you, together with Joseph Yamin, have come to the conclusion that those bars being taken out were being smuggled out by nefarious characters and not through official channels like the PMMC is saying?
Nobody, Joseph Yamin never said so, and I've never said so. But whatever it is that people have made price over the movement of gold, and the same gold was sent in a bullion van. They have confirmed that it belongs to the government of Ghana. That is fundamental to the discussion. once they have confirmed, and given the nature of things that are happening, that transition is ongoing, where there are instances where people are just stealing government assets and stealing government assets. I don't think that you will be happy that there have been information that there is an illegal or some sort of movement of good that belongs to the states, and that people would have allowed it to go without following up. I don't think you endorse it. And so every government asset must be protected. And you are aware that we stopped our boys from engaging in unlawful activities. So any suspicious information, the police is called in and the police will take an action. And it's not always the case that you are making this principle before a court, but when it comes to investigation and suspicious items, the rule is not the same. The rule is that you should just report whatever you suspect to the police and let the police follow up.
And in law, what you are saying there is right. If you see suspicious activity, you have to inform the police, tip them off, and let them do their work without necessarily interfering, unless it is necessary for you to do so, because you could do the wrong thing and then you could be in trouble. But if there's no need to intercept or anything, you can just give a tip off to the police and they will take it from there. But the PMMC says, the PMMC says that all of this is much ado about nothing, because this is part of their ongoing domestic gold purchase program, and that they were merely transporting these. And of course, they referenced the fact that this started in June 2021, and that they were merely transferring these gold bars for a confirmation of their weights, for their purity, and also to then determine their value. And then this process was disrupted by Mr. Yamin. How do you feel about that when they say this? It was not even being transported outside the country. It was just going to be checked for weight, for purity, and all of that. And then they would determine the value. And then this process was disrupted.
That is not true. And go and check your records. 100 kilos. Didn't they take 100 kilos with KLM? Ask them.
When you say didn't they take, were you able to confirm that?
I'm just asking.
No, I'm saying were you able to? There are things that have come, into the public discussion space and all of that, but confirming it is something altogether different.
Number two, brother, where the gold was, it wasn't, that's not the only refinery we have in Ghana. And you don't refine at the airport where the gold is going to be taken out. That is not true. That also is not true. But I'm just saying that. But I don't
think they are saying they were going to refine there. They were checking the weight and checking for purity.
The gold was being taken out of the country.
You can say that for a fact based on what evidence?
Yes. So when the police come out, you will get to know. When the police bring their report out, because I don't want to do the work of the police. I'm not a police officer. And the only reason we're having this conversation is the motive of trying to twist the issues to say that there was some sort of, as if some hoodlums had stopped a process. They walk there and then they call in the police. Of course, you have to be present. They call the police to take the gold, take possession of the gold, impound sale, take it back to police custody. The following day, investigations have started. So theirs is to cooperate. They are a government entity. Transition, and I don't want to go into the complex conversation of what transactions can be legitimately undertaken when transition is occurring. I don't want to get into it.
But why don't you want to get into them? Because, look, I am wholly with you on holding the feet of those in power to the fire of accountability. And some things morally, ethically, should not be done in the dying embers of an administration. It could smell badly of corruption or of self-aggrandizement. I agree. But that also does not mean that because the transition is in process, certain actions must come to a grinding halt. You must always be objective and look at matters from two standpoints. This administration is in power till midnight of the 6th of January. and if there are processes. Now they talk about this business person who was awaiting the gold that has now been accosted or taken by some, people who felt they were being vigilant and all of that, and that it could put a dent in Ghana's image when it comes to our gold and these business processes. How do you react to that?
That is not true. That is factually a lie.
So tell me why it's a lie.
If the gold were taken by some people, it will be taken to NDC headquarters. The police are.
I never said they took the gold. I mean, they prevented the process from going on, and the police was called
exactly.
in.
So it is a subject matter under investigation.
Right.
Police, the rightful thing was done, and let me put it on record that the police escorted the gold to the regional police command. That is the right thing. The police have the right to request for further and better particulars of the gold. The police also have a responsibility, just as if they arrest you and I, they take us to the police station. The police must not watch on for us to die. They must give us food, they must give us water. They need to establish a safe keeping place for this gold, and that it was taken back to Bank of Ghana for further investigation to be done. I don't understand why he meant by a certain businessman. They should mention the businessman's name. Why is PMMC CEO or corporate affair who can write letters not putting the details? They should put the facts. If they believe
they say it's a private exporter, and in some instance, that these names may not be entities or people whose names you just put out there. But I'm sure if the investigative processes get to that, these people and who is behind it and whose entity it is would come to the fore, but maybe not necessarily in the public space.
That's why I feel that it's unfortunate PMMC is going on this route. It wasn't an illegal activity that took place. They should cooperate with the police. The police do their investigation, and then we take the matter from there. But when you want to portray as if because the gold didn't go, which private entity was standing where and waiting for the gold?
Let me ask you a pointed question. I have seen articles by Bright Simmons on, Ghana's purported only refinery and the sort of people that allegedly are behind it, fronting for certain people in government. Let me ask you a pointed question. Do you think this was being conducted by certain individuals in government to the benefit of themselves? Do you not have any doubts about the fact that it could have been the natural or normal processes of exporting gold?
Well, I have my own suspicions. But my suspicions will be based on what the police will find out. If I had the right to do my own investigation, I'm sure that I would have pulled in all the facts by now. But the state institution was to do the investigation. They have impounded and committed the arrest. And so I think that we should allow them to finish their work. And let me assure you that we as citizens must help protect the public purse. And we must do so in a manner that does not jeopardize our state interests as far as state assets are concerned. That is what exactly we are doing. And there are many instances where I can assure you, Akako, this morning, individuals within government are using some form of means to dissipate, to take away, to share state assets and state properties. And all of us must make sure that it goes to the police for further investigation. The individuals, like Brian Simon's article, as you have claimed, look, there are a lot of these Ponzi schemes that government used as a vehicle to perpetuate high crimes, financial crimes in this government. A lot of it, a lot of it. And as I'm speaking to you now, this may be one of the issues, but I'm just saying that they have accepted in their own letter that the gold belongs to government, facilitated through themselves and Bank of Ghana. So 2 government institutions are involved. 1 private entity is involved. They refuse to mention the name. We'll get to know when the police begin their work. But in all fairness, they should desist from twisting the facts and trying to court public sympathy as if some terrorists have come from the bush and suddenly are in town arresting people. They are carrying government gold. And I can say it on authority that they were taking the gold out of the country. I can say it on authority.
Do you know which flight was due to take it out of the country?
Emirates flight.
Yes, I know it's an Emirates flight. Do you have the flight details? Do you know?
I was on EK788.
EK788.
Yes.
All right. And the destination was where? The United Arab Emirates.
Yes, Dubai. So all this is a cock and bull story. We have a lot of you should call the gold experts and tell them if a gold is assayed at the airport, where will be the next destination? They will take it back to Bank of Ghana.
And that is one of the curious bits for me. If it was meant for a saying, how it ended up at the airport. But let me also put on record, Mustafa, hold for me. Let me put it on record that we have attempted reaching the managing director or the chief executive of the PMMC, the Precious Minerals Marketing Company, Nana Akwesi Ewua. That's his name, Nana Akwesi Ewua. We have attempted reaching him. We tried getting him on this conversation, and I guess he was busy. He mentioned that he will call us back, and he is yet to call back. So, Nana Akwesi Ewua, if you feel there is an angle apart from the statement you've put out, you may be watching me right now. If you feel there's an angle that you would like to add to the conversation, now would be the time to call. If not, you might have to hold your peace. So let me come back to you, Mustafa Gbande. Have you interacted with the PMMC since the 17th, since this happened, since the police stepped in, took custody of the gold, and subsequently deposited it at the vaults of the central bank? Have you had any interactions with the PMMC to find out what exactly happened, or is it just the statement you've seen?
Well, my interest, and as far as citizen interest is concerned, was to make sure that the gold is verified, and the only way to verify is the way that it has passed now. I was expecting that if he had any problem, he would call me. He had never called. The team that went there, he hadn't spoken to anybody except to issue.
Nane said he would call you.
No, I said, I mean, if there was anything he think that we should get to know, he would have called me. But I do also know that that was not the end of it. That there have been some moves to move gold again from PMMC as of yesterday. As of yesterday.
See.
So it is not a thing that I've stopped.
Do you know whether, because yesterday is just a day after this initial incident happened, do you have any idea whether it has to do with the same gold bars or maybe something different?
No, some other different gold. Something different. And I can assure you that we are monitoring everyone closely. Akapo, what is happening is sad. It is very sad. I'm a political party officer. Yes, I agree. I'm not a government officer. But we should not look on for things like that to continue to happen to this country. As if, look, if the government, the sitting government, were up to task, it is their duty to ensure that every state entity is functioning correctly and that there are no malicious means within which individuals exploit the state within this period. But clearly what I can tell you is that government have washed its hands off everything. And as we speak, individuals with criminal motives have taken advantage of the transition period and doing several of things, a lot of things that are illegal. And so much as I will call on President Akufo-Addo to intervene because he's still the president until 7th of January. If you have to issue any government assets, there is a way that you do it. There's a manner in which it's done. Beyond that, citizens have a right to be concerned. Let me just raise a small issue. The issue that happened at Nkwanta South involving excavator and the Catholics.
Right, the Catholic priests.
Yeah, it's a regional excavator, which is part of the drip machines that government gave to the regions. They have rented it to private individuals. The engineers did not give a way bill to the movement of the machine. So the young men who saw the machine and confirmed it was a government property began to ask questions. The ones who were transporting the machines were foreigners, they can't speak. That is what you saw. Would you say?
Yes, but that did not justify the beatings. What they should have done, like you said, in the first instance, was to report to the authorities, aka the police, for starters, and would have taken it from there. Beating them to a pulp was not the right thing to do. I wholly agree with everything you've said. Vigilance, let's be vigilant, yes. But the beating of those priests, especially when you don't even understand what they are saying, made no sense.
I'm your junior brother. You know how principled I am. What is wrong is wrong. You don't arrest anybody and beat the person. That is wrong. Those are the excesses of these activities. I mean, it happens in some instances. It will not happen. We condemn, say, but I'm just giving you the instance where, because of the inability for the government to take full control, to still maintain control, people are taking advantage of the transition period and stealing and committing acts that are illegal. See, so that is what is causing all of us to rise up to the occasion to say, no, you have lost government, you are a government officer. It is not even, you cannot even say MPP executives are stealing, because all of these assets were in custody of appointed government officials. They are the ones doing these things. You see? So, and most of the things, you are unable to call the police immediately unless you see it, stop it, and then you call in the police.
Right.
If we leave it for the alone, they cannot see everything. The police do not know that fertilizer that was meant for farmers under the Ministry of Agri found its way to private homes and private warehouses. This morning, at the region, another information we are chasing is that the fact that we decide by the state is packed in a private dealer's warehouse. Okay, so we are getting the police involved to go and follow up on that story. It is wrong, and if you leave it for the police, they will not know. Yesterday, we impounded, I think 3 days ago, about 20 Land Cruisers parked in somebody's house. Vehicles, people are stealing. And I just told you.
Where? Here in the Greater Accra region?
In the Greater Accra region. Look, I am dealing with a matter involving a lady called Teresa, who works in the Jubilee House.
Don't mention full names here, just for the sake of legal processes.
She works in the Jubilee House, works for the old man, the president, I mean. Her residence was besieged by an invisible forces of the MPP, who also works in the Jubilee House, called Prince Guma, who besieged this lady's bungalow and asked her to leave. He is coming to demolish the bungalow because Asensubo Ache have sold him the land. Okay, I
asked you not to mention names. We can't verify these statements you're making, so please avoid. And let me just put the caveat out there that these are the words of Mustafa Gbande. They don't reflect our policy here. We have no evidence to back up the claim. It is not to say that if the wrong thing is being done, we don't care. But the problem is we don't want legal processes against us because we don't have that evidence to put out. Go ahead, Mustafa.
Right. So what I did was to get a team involved to tell him that, look, nobody should touch the government property. Wait, when the government takes over, bring your document to Ministry of Lands and whatever it is, let them verify. Right. But you cannot go and demolish the place and build in the night or overnight, which is what is happening in most part of cantonment. People who have, people are on government lands and building in the night. Chief, it's wrong. If you have legitimately acquired a government property, which every citizen is entitled to, depending upon merits. Because if a public officer is occupying a government bungalow and you want to sell that bungalow, the law requires that you give a first instance option
to that person.
The public. Exactly.
Right.
In this case, that's not what is going on.
And
the person goes there and
go ahead.
$500,000. Please vacate the premise. These are the things that we are trying to forestall. You go to districts and there are fertilizers that are being distributed to party cronies. In Asamanka 4 days ago, MPP members actually chased their executives to their homes to retrieve government properties that were meant to be given to individuals, and they are hoarding them in their homes. Would you say they are wrong? These are MPP people. They are right. The fertilizers that you are showing, they are clearly government fertilizers. I wept when I saw the fertilizers. It is wrong. It is wrong. And we should not allow it to go on because the state is somewhat going through transition. And so the authorities are not able to act properly. So we should go and sleep. Look at the amount of fertilizer, over 10,000 bags of fertilizer you are seeing there. At the period that farmers were denied the benefits of these fertilizers, should we not condemn this act? Should we not applaud the individuals?
And of course, if wrongdoing was being done, you ought to be applauded, and we applaud you for your vigilance. It's just that the vigilance must also be commensurable with the law. But let me ask you, let me just digress briefly. On the matter of those fertilizers, do you know where they are currently?
They have taken it, they have handed them over to the police and determined a safe warehouse of government and have moved there. In fact, we supervise the movement. You can see on the trailer that they are moved. We move all of them to an approved warehouse where the police will be protecting same until.
Okay, so for now, at least they are safe.
They are safe. Now they are safe. Okay. Every place, in fact, the ones that we intercepted yesterday are more than the ones you are seeing. And all of that were conveyed, were conveyed back to state warehouse for safekeeping. As I'm speaking to you in a front place, they have just intercepted yesterday over some 200 bags being shared by executives. And I'm told that the DCE is the one who have sanctioned for that to be shared. They have impounded that, and the police have taken custody. If you go to Nkoko, the Metro Mass yard that is there, people are going into it and cutting the Metro Mass into pieces and taking it away. Our boys have gone there. They have ensured that the police have taken over, and same was locked. If you go to Efutu, where YEA logistics were stolen, there are places where they are moving Agenda 111 building construction materials. We have intercepted all of this and handed them over to the police. There are places where GES vehicle was put in at the Kulita and wrapped as if it is yam from Damango coming towards Techimai. We arrested it and handed it over to the police. There are movement of vehicles. Yesterday, they tried to go and auction luxury cars from Harbour and Long Haul at the airport. We have gone there, spoke to the authorities to ensure that nobody move the vehicles out, and unless it is a rightful way of doing so. So these are many, many, many things that are ongoing in the system because government have gone to sleep. We are trying to use the right way. We are trying to employ the right method. But some of these things, it happens in a way that is sophisticated. You will not get a police officer to be aware.
All right. I think the point there is clear. I have to take your final point, but before I do that, of course, we must be very vigilant. I keep saying it. What belongs to the state must remain with the state for the benefit of us all, not for a few. And if, like has been mentioned, if you've not looted anything, you should not be afraid. But if you have, if your hands are tainted, then you would have every reason to shake in your boots, to quiver. And that is what I believe we must hold people accountable so that the poorest of the poor can benefit from the largesse of the state. But I'll just end with this, and I take your final words. The statement from the PMMC says, it is important to emphasize that a simple verification with the relevant authorities, including the PMMC and the Bank of Ghana, would have clarified the legitimacy of the process. Mr. Managing Director, we've reached out to you to give us further clarity. You are not speaking to us. Okay? You say the management of PMMC stands resolute in its commitment to ensuring transparency, accountability, and compliance with all legal and regulatory standards. You could have given us that transparency by interacting with us. So you've had the opportunity. It's not that we denied you or your entity the opportunity. But anyway, that is how we are capping off this end of the conversation. Any final words, Mustafa Gbande, as you take leave of us?
I want to thank you for also giving us the opportunity to explain this. I think yesterday, His Excellency elect President have set up a body that will take all of these complaints and ensure that they work on it properly for the purposes of the transition that is ongoing. And so most of these complaints will be forwarded to them. You will agree that the arrowhead for the issues of fertilizer is the Minister of Agric. And so now an official complaint will be laid with that committee for them to begin their process of investigation into how government fertilizers were found in individual hands. As far as this one is concerned, you know that it falls under Bank of Ghana and then the Minerals Commission and also the Minister of Finance. A complaint will be lodged officially to the committee. Issues involving land, state lands, will also be reported officially to the committee. Now, if you seize or impound a stolen government asset and you take same to your house, it's also a criminality. We just have to state that we have informed the rank and file of the well-meaning Ghanaians who are in this industry of vigilance to ensure that you do not arrogate benefits and use of properties or items suspected to be state assets.
All right.
And you have assisted the police to arrest. That will be a criminal act. We should help the country. We should protect what the country has. We should protect the taxpayer. We should help the new government take over properly and establish properly. Else, the victims of the suffering that will come will be still Ghanaians, not Togolese.
All right.
I also
Thank you, Mustafa.
To ensure that he gets his house in order. What is happening is awful. It's an eyesore. It's wrong, and we should not do that just because we have lost election. Ghana
Mustafa Gbande is Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. Mustafa, my apologies, but thank you very much. You've added a lot of insight into this conversation. As and when the PMMC and its managing director is ready to talk, we shall give them the opportunity to do that. But for now, they remain tight-lipped. But let me come briefly into the studio. Sweetie Abochi, you've been following the conversation. What do you make of it? Before we go oral and talk about Operation Recover All Loot, what did you make of it? The PMMC's angle and the NDC's angle.
I think that we should check and double check before we come out.
Maybe triple check.
Triple check, you know.
Because right now, it's just like...
then. So you can't be putting out, claims and all that without actually backing with facts. And I also think that the PMMC should have just named who this individual is. Yeah. And then it leaves us as citizens... Exporter. Yeah, it gives us the opportunity to do our own checks on this person and see if indeed this is a legitimate
their statement talks about transparency, accountability, and all that. Open up and let's discuss.
Talking about open up, let's segue into the conversation on the Operation Recover All Loot. Can Ghanaians really expect anything new with the setting up of this preparatory committee by the President-elect John Dramani Mahama? We know that yesterday or 2 days ago, was it, that team was constituted. We'll put the members of the team on your screens this morning, but we've been joined by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's head for the study of European Studies at the University of Ghana, as well as Edem Senanu, both joining us via Zoom to get into this, what really they make of it. Let me start with you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Mary Ada from Ghana Integrity Initiative says that this committee is superfluous because we already have institutions to deal with corruption and corruption-related incidents. But what do you make of this and the you know, the inauguration of a sort of this committee to lead Operation Recover All Loots. However, we are in transition, so they don't have any prosecutorial role. What do you make of it? Your initial comments on this?
Yes, I think my understanding of this committee is to sort of receive information, if you like, complaints about some of the ills in the society that fall squarely in the area of corruption, so that they can also look at them and then pass them on to appropriate institutions to work on this. I'm saying this, I'm not part of those who design it and all that, but the inkling I pick from this is that this is similar to what President Kufuor established. You recall, he established, I've forgotten the exact name, something to do with accountability.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. Yes, that people should go there and, report cases, give information. My understanding of this thing is that sometimes when you want people to give you information about issues of corruption, and it's difficult for them to use the police system. So a system like this will give them opportunity to tell their story. Then the committee will look at it. Since the committee, we don't know how it's going to be and all that, but for purposes of conversation, let's say that, yes, they receive this and then scrutinize it and pass it on to appropriate agencies to deal with it. I don't see any noise about it because it's an information gathering process, and it is part and parcel of the democratic enterprise.
Right.
So once they're able to do this, that's what I'm thinking. Then they pass it on to appropriate agencies, then they act. People are saying that they're superfluous, that against the backdrop that you have SHRA, you have other institutions and all that. But you also understand that not everybody can go through that process, even though they have information. So if we have a way of getting information and pass it to them, ultimately, what is wrong about it? Come to look at the committee. This is a committee of people who have distinguished themselves in their fields of endeavors. You talk about the chairman of Kwijeto Ablakwa. We all know he's a citizen vigilante MP in Parliament, making sure that we get the basics right in our governance system. We've seen his activity, and it's similar to what there was an MPP man in the first Parliament. I forgot to Kwamna Bartels. Yes, he was doing this sort of business. I'm sure Ben and Sweetie, you recall the work of Kwamna Bartels. They were calling him Parliamentary 007. I remember. He was doing a lot of stuff in here, exposing a lot of things. So he's very experienced. He's in the almighty Domlevu. We all know what he's capable of doing in terms of his work. I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that people like this, when they get information, they'll be able to act on it very well. Kofi Boache, a fantastic police officer who worked with distinction, and then he's now doing the last national service. I believe that he will be able to give us what is under his sleeves for the third national service.
Right.
Come to look at Martin Pebu. Yes, a very experienced lawyer and very good, and he knows his job. So when they scrutinize these things, I'm not sure we are going to have problems. If you look at my own colleague and friend, Raymond Archer, a fantastic journalist who has worked over the years. So all in all, when you put the team together, they should be able to find something meaningful and then pass it on to whatever agencies that they want to. The reason that I support this call is that, when you have this setup serves as a sieve, if you like, to get us the basics quickly and pass it on without wasting time. Because remember, this government has nothing but 4-year tenure, which every government has. But there is a lot of responsibility on the part of this government, and part of it is what he campaigned on, that he wants to root out corruption from our midst. And he has been in office for too many years as a vice president, as a president, and coming back. So my understanding is that he has seen that this should be the catalyst that will speed up the reactions.
Okay. Thank you, Doc. Let me go to Edem Senanu for his remarks as well on this Operation Recover All Loot. Edem, there are so many arguments making the waves. Which one do you align with, and why?
On this score, I disagree with my sister, Mrs. Mary Awalanada. This is very important. I think it's a good idea. Whistleblowing is a well-renowned approach to gathering information. And indeed, if you've analyzed it, there's a value chain. They are just gathering the facts. That's what they are responsible for. And then it will be transferred to the relevant investigative prosecutorial agencies, whether it is the OSP or TRAJ. I don't think that there is any reason why we say this is superfluous, especially on the backdrop of recent Afrobarometer reports, which have said that over 30% of Ghanaians say they are reticent to reporting corruption and corruption-related crimes for two reasons. One, they fear a backlash because the anonymity may not be actually guaranteed. And secondly, they're not too sure whether anything will be done. Now, what this committee does is to provide a platform to facilitate this and to guarantee or to assure Ghanaians that, look, we have a system in place where we facilitate, we'll keep your identity, anonymous, and we will follow up to make sure certain results come out. Right. I think it is innovative. Also within the transition period, that this is a time where many people who realize, okay, we may be going out of government, may be so inclined to think that, no, at this time, let's hide something, let's transfer something, let's relocate something. In my view, this ought to be institutionalized, no longer just a partisan initiative, but for future governments within the transitions law that we have. One of the committees ought to be one that looks like good governance and anti-corruption and does this kind of thing. So anybody who gets into government knows that at the exit point, this is going to happen where Ghanaians are being asked for information. That in itself will serve as a further deterrent for the kind of untoward actions that some people would think they can do and get away with it. So I am fully aligned. I just think that the committee needs to be cautious in how they handle the information they receive so that people's integrity, their reputation, there's no unnecessary reputational damage because something is leaked out before we arrive at a proper conclusion on the matter. So that would be the caution that I'll throw in there.
Right. Thank you, Edem. And Ben, so it looks like nobody is really against the formation of this team, but caution should be taken. I don't know what you make of it. Well,
that is what Edem Senanu is saying, institutionalization. But when you talk about institutionalizing this, Edem, what exactly do you mean? The 5-member committee will do its work. Should it then spill over into a sort of body that will now become constitutional and then take up the work from there? Because looking at the components, you have an investigative journalist in there, you have Daniel Yao-Domelevo, former Auditor General, you have a member of parliament in the person of the head of that group, Samuel Kujato Ablakwa, you have a retired police officer, you have a lawyer in there. Would this institutionalization then mean retaining these people or setting up a new system framework with legislative backing for the future? What really does it mean?
I am looking at the current transitional law. We have something in place that's supposed to govern the process between governments. We had some confusion in the past. We came up with these guidelines to ensure that these things are done in a much more diplomatic and coherent manner. Now, in that law, so you are right that I'm looking at some kind of legal reform. I'm saying let's not just have some committees that deal with administrative, financial, and so on and so forth. One of those committees within that law, which would mean that it will be a new committee each time a government comes up. They will have to look around, identify persons that fit the bill, and assign them this task of gathering information from the citizens. I'm saying that having that in place would be a sustainable way of ensuring that people going to government know that, look, at the exit point, even before the transition has been completed. Ghanaians are going to be asked for information. So if you think you're on a board and you suddenly shift some board money, or you have gotten access to some land, you're going to change the documentation, all citizens who are aware, and by the way, this is not in a vacuum. It is Article 41F. Sometimes I think that we need to educate our citizens very well. This one I was trying to find it. I don't know whether I still have it. I'll read it to you later. But Article 41F, okay, I found it. It's very specific. It says, to protect and preserve public property and expose and combat misuse and waste of public funds and property. This is one of the obligations of a citizen of Ghana. So this is not being done in a vacuum when there's a call on Ghanaians to submit information that can ensure that resources that are sorely needed to move our nation forward are not, flitted away into somebody's pocket or account.
Do you think embarking on an enterprise like that, and I'm asking this question for a reason, we don't know how much we would have to pump into it as taxpayers. Would it be worth the money? Especially on the back of claims by some that we already have other institutions that should be fighting corruption. Would it be worth our money?
Well, I don't know why we're even assuming that the money that will be spent on this will be. I'm expecting that there will be quite a bit of volunteering.
No. Don't get me wrong. Don't even focus on this specific committee, and yes, maybe others to come. But not everybody may want to do it or give of their whatever for free. So we must assume that there may be some who may want some compensation. Would it be worth our money? Because the work they will do will eventually trying to, maybe not even the per diems and all of that, but the investigative work in trying to unearth who has been corrupt and all of that, it would involve money. That's what I mean.
I definitely think that it will be worth a while. I mean, there are those who want to assess, for example, the OSP by saying there's been no concluded prosecutions with people found sanctioned. Those of us in good governance and anti-corruption, that's not our take. I mean, we say prevention is much more valuable than prosecution, because the amount of money and resources you would use to chase after things will be much more. The existence of certain institutions begins to make people less, interested. It serves as a deterrent. It lets them feel like, there's going to be this committee and all Ghanaians are going to be asked, and somebody's going to expose me. So these are all mechanisms that begin to, as it were, make citizens more compliant with the law and less likely to do what is wrong. So it is not just about what ends up in court and there is somebody who's sanctioned. And then again, I don't think that in this exercise, where you are saying Ghanaians to just forward information they have, that is capital intensive. I don't see that way at all. Right. Except for when you need to follow up where that might require some resourcing. I think that the gains to be made will far outweigh any money to invest, especially at this time when people are likely to be inclined to be getting themselves in, trying to, change documentation, move money out of the country. Right. This is a good time to have a committee like this so that Ghanaians' eyes are open and say, look, I've just seen this happen. Right. And it allows the committee the opportunity to stop that transaction or to recover that, resource before it gets out of jurisdiction or somewhere where we can't control it. So I think that there are gains to be made from this initiative. Institutionalize it through policy, legal reform, having a committee that looks at this, and always getting competent people. I think this is a competent committee that can actually deliver on the mandate that has been given.
Let me come to you, Dr. Asante. You would hear from the chairman of that committee, Samuel Okutetu-Ablakwa, say, we'll do honest and impartial work. We are not here for a witch hunt. That is what he says. But then you hear the majority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, and for him, he asks, we want to know who is funding Mahama's anti-corruption committee. And it's interesting because I saw a response from the South Dai legislator. I'm talking about Roxanne Nelson Dafeambekpo, pointing to him that he shouldn't worry about that. and the Article 41 that you referenced gives room for this as part of the transition. And he actually says this Ablakwa-led anti-state loot team is actually a preparatory committee constituted in pursuance of Section 4 of Act 845, 2012. It's to, inter alia, trace, gather, and collate concrete evidence for the real oral work ahead. So panic not about cost, for it's part of the transitional processes. Instead, be interested in the quality of work it would produce. Be guided accordingly. And then you would have a statement from Samukujatu Ablakwa himself, the head of that committee, saying, look, actually, we sat and we've decided that we are going to do this work absolutely for free. This is what Samukujatu Ablakwa put up there. He says, the oral team held its first meeting at 2 p.m. today and has resolved to work gratis for free. We shall not be receiving salaries, allowances, per diems, or fuel coupons. None of our activities will come at a cost to the taxpayer. He adds, we continue to count on your support. Let's do this for God and country. Ghana first. Doc, what could be better than this?
The idea that they want to do it for gratis is good. If you look at the fact that you have people who want to dedicate themselves to the service of this country without taking anything, we must commend them for that.
Right.
Even if we need to spend money in there, are you asking the cost of, sitting down without doing anything for the state to lose about $3 billion a year to corruption?
Actually, it's way more than that. We've gone past what the finance ministry said. It could be $6+ billion by now.
Okay. Let's handle it at the level of $3 billion. We are in IMF looking for $3 billion. If we can spend very little to do this exercise and get results, is it not worth its while?
Right.
I think it's important. Remember, sometimes when police need information about murder and all that, they put a bounty. They put some money out there that if we're able to give us information, we are prepared to pay them. And do we also question that you are spending so much to get information? No, we are looking. This is a very serious exercise. So even if you want to spend some money there, it shouldn't be difficult because we are getting the benefit far exceeds what we are going to lose in effect. So I believe that we should encourage them to do this beautiful work. My only caution is that the regime of the MPP has not ended yet. So whatever they are doing now is preparatory. It has no legal basis now until the government ends January 7th.
Right.
Then, you can begin to have a system. Otherwise, then we are running a certain parallel system which will become unconstitutional and all that. That's my only caution. Because now, yes, we are in transition period. The new government has not taken power yet. So everything is in theory. The real practical issues will come out after on the 7th.
All right.
But for me, even if the state will want to spend money in this and making sure that it's better, why not? And I also love the idea, the question you posed, that can it be institutionalized? Yes, whether it will be institutionalized or not will depend on the work they do. If the whole state, we look at it and we realize that they have served our interests, why not? Then we can institutionalize and bring in other individuals in there. Because if I look at the composition, it gives me a certain, knowledge that if you want to institutionalize and you get people who have retired, they are good because they are not in active service to be targeted and all that. They are out there. It gives me an idea. It also gives me an idea that there are people you can add from civil society group and other, graft institutions or groups. You can also draft some of them in there and you make it.
All right.
Beautiful things start with a step. So I believe that when we are able to do it and do it well, we should be able to look for such opportunities.
Sweetie Abachi will be taking your final comments. But before we get there, in just 1 minute, so 30 seconds each, what do you make, though, about the gold haul that was supposedly accosted at the KIA? I'll start with you, Edem Senanu, and then same for Doc, and then Sweetie will take your final comments. The release from the PMMC versus what the NDC is saying?
The information has been conflicting, and I'm not quite sure what happened or what didn't happen. Was there actually money being, gold bullion being sent out? Was it a relevant intervention or it was not? I don't have clarity, so I can't comment substantively on it at the moment. I think that PMMC should come clear what exactly transpired there. I think when I got on board, you were having that discussion, but I missed most of it, so I'm not quite sure what to say.
All right, Doc?
Yeah, same here. I've not been following the story, so in fact, I have no information. So for now, I'll leave it so that it plays out and we all come back and look at what is supposed to be. That's it.
Sweetie Abochi?
Yes, Doc, I know this is your final take, but I want you to include, are you saying that, and I hear you on commending this 5-member committee that they want to work, gratis, but let's not completely ignore what Samuel Okudzeto is saying, that they do not want to witch hunt anybody. Is there actually no room at all for the incoming administration to use this policy to, I don't know, launch a vendetta against the the outgoing administration? And then you can add your final bit to it for me.
I mean, you can have anybody, any group of people who want to do a good job. If they decide to do a good job, they'll do a good job. If they want to take the other course, it is also there. What we are saying, that they cannot be a witch hunt body. It cannot be. Because if you look at the preamble of our constitution, we, the people of this country, that we believe in probity, principles such as probity, accountability, and all that. So this thing is not different from it. Okay. We are also signatory to the World Bank principle of what good governance, which requires what part of it is what accountability. That if we're a leader, at a point in time, you will be called upon to account for the stewardship of your office. Right. Even if you strike the conversation, why do we have audits in all organizations when we are going to end the year this way? Yeah. All right. Every year you see auditors around. Are they witch hunting everybody? Oh no. These are the principles that we work with. And so if we're afraid to work with such principles, I'm afraid don't get to public circles, because you'll be made to account for your actions and inactions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Edem, your final take, and maybe if you want to reflect on that as well, if there's any room at all for the incoming administration to use this, oral policy to pursue a vendetta against the outgoing administration.
Well, there are two reasons why I think that is unlikely. First of all, the individuals that have been proposed for this committee don't have a track record of victimization or doing that. These are publicly known figures. Okay. If individuals are in the habit of doing it, you can go into their history and see that they have done these kind of things. These gentlemen have no such track record. Secondly, the facts that they are gathering will be transferred to independent institutions of state to do further scrutiny before they take the decision. In other words, it doesn't lie in their ambit or mandate, as it were, to decide who they'll follow up on, who they'll take to court, etc. It will either be charged or OSP or some other entity set up already by government with its own staffing. So to that extent, they are isolated or insulated from the actions that will be taken against individuals who are found to be, potentially culpable. And so to that extent, I think it's a little stretch to suggest that there'll be witch hunting under this circumstance. Much more importantly, I think that they should just be cautious how they handle citizens' information that come in. Anonymity should be championed, and at the same time, they should be cautious that persons whose reputations have been made over the years are not targeted in any way, do not have it slurred, muddied. Let's wait until there's a final conclusion on matters before we begin to make statements that might seem to be, suggesting that somebody is a criminal or otherwise.
All right.
Those would be the cautions. But I think it's a good initiative.
Thank you so much, Edem Senanu, African Union Board, is it board chairman for Against Corruption, board chair Against Corruption, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. And Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, our very own at the University of Ghana Center for European Studies. Thank you so much for joining us. And that's the end of this belt of conversation. But you want to stay with us because there's a lot more coming your way on the AM show. We'll take a break and we'll be back shortly.